Finding love is something we've been obsessed with forever, but in just the last decade or so, the way we go about it has been totally flipped on its head. Online dating? It's not some niche corner of the internet anymore. It's a massive mainstream force that's completely reshaping how millions of us find romance.
And we're not just talking about a social shift here. It's a billion-dollar global industry. That number, it represents millions and millions of people logging in every single day, putting their money, their hopes, and, let's be honest, their vulnerabilities on the line in the search for a partner. So, this huge, real-time social experiment that we're all a part of, it brings up a really fundamental question, not just for psychological scientists, but for all of us. With all this tech and all these endless options, are we actually getting any better at finding love?
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to break it all down. First, we'll look at the core questions science is asking. Then, we'll see how the whole process of dating got turned upside down. We'll explore the psychological trap of having too many choices. We'll debunk the myth of that all-powerful matching algorithm. And then, we'll wrap up with some science-backed tips for, well, smarter swiping. Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this, researchers from top universities like Northwestern and UCLA basically distilled this entire messy world of online dating into two simple, fundamental questions. First up, is swiping through profiles on your phone fundamentally different from, say, meeting someone at a coffee shop? And second, the big one, the million-dollar question, is it actually better? Does it lead to happier, more successful relationships? As you're about to see, the science paints a really fascinating and kind of complicated picture.
Okay, let's dive into that first question, shall we? Has all this technology really, truly changed the process of getting to know someone?
And the short answer from the research? A big, fat yes. There's no ambiguity here. Online dating isn't just a new venue to meet people. It follows a completely different script for how romance unfolds, and it fundamentally changes how we connect with each other. I mean, just look at how the whole thing is flipped upside down. Traditionally, you'd meet someone in person, you'd feel that initial spark or not, and then you'd slowly get to know them over time. Online, it's the total opposite. You start with a list of facts, a profile, you build some kind of connection through text and DMs, and only then do finally meet in person, pretty much just to see if the chemistry you built up in your head is even real. Okay, so we've established it's different, but that leads us to the much, much trickier question: is it actually superior? And to even begin to answer that, we have to look at the number one service these dating sites offer, which is access. Yeah, really. Does this whole new way of doing things, this data-first approach, actually lead to better outcomes? Is flipping the script on romance an upgrade for us? And this is where things get really interesting. The answer from the researchers is a classic yes and no. It turns out online dating offers some absolutely incredible advantages, but it also introduces some pretty significant psychological traps. So let's start with the main selling point of these apps, right? Access. What the research means by that is simple. You get exposed to a whole world of potential partners that you would just never, ever meet in your day-to-day life. It's not the friend of a friend, it's not the person at the gym, it's everyone else. But all that unlimited access, it can really change how we think about people. As one person in the study put it, it starts to feel like you're shopping from a catalog. And that quote, man, it just perfectly captures one of the big problems with online dating. And that right there is the paradox of choice. On the one hand, the promise is amazing. You've got more options than ever before right at your fingertips. But the peril, the downside, is that it can turn people into products. We start shopping. We get stuck in this assessment mode where we're judging everyone, and the sheer number of options can lead to decision fatigue, where it becomes almost impossible to actually commit to anyone. All right, moving on from just having more options, there's the other huge promise that a lot of these dating sites make, that their scientific matching algorithms can basically find your soulmate for you. You've heard it, right? This idea of a secret sauce, some secret mathematical formula that analyzes who you are and serves up your perfect match. It's supposed to take all the guesswork and messiness out of finding love. And trust me, this isn't new. Companies have been pushing this for ages. Way back in 2011, OkCupid's tagline was super direct. We use math to get you dates. The promise is clear. Data can solve the very human problem of connection. So you gotta ask, does the science actually back this up? Can an algorithm really predict if two people are gonna be happy together for the long haul before they've even met? Well,
The scientific conclusion is just one word: unsupported. The researchers are really clear on this one. They state that there is no compelling evidence that these matching algorithms actually work. Ouch. So why don't they work? What's the deal? Well, for one, they tend to focus way too much on similarity, which it turns out isn't nearly as important for long-term happiness as we tend to think. But really, the bigger issue is that an algorithm isn't a crystal ball. It can't know how you and a partner will grow and change over the years. It can't predict life events. And most importantly, it can't capture that magical, unquantifiable thing we call chemistry that only happens when two people are in the same room. Okay, so if access is a double-edged sword and the algorithms are basically a myth, where does that leave us? Should we all just delete our apps? The whole point of this research isn't to say that online dating is bad. It's to help you use it better.
No, the key here is to become a smarter, more mindful user. These apps are incredibly powerful tools, and if you understand how they work, their strengths and their weaknesses, you can actually use them to your advantage and sidestep some of those common psychological traps. So, based on all this science, here are 3 things you can actually do. First, think of profiles as conversation starters, not final resumes. Don't write someone off just because of a few bullet points. Second, try to move to an actual in-person meeting sooner rather than later. The real data, the chemistry, the vibe, the rapport, you can only get that face-to-face. And third, just be aware of the paradox of choice. Recognize when you're falling into that endless shopping mode. And that kind of leaves us with this one big, fascinating question. Technology has given us these incredible tools to connect with more people than ever before. But what the research really confirms is that the most important parts of a relationship, that chemistry, how you grow together, and just plain old chance, can't be coded into an algorithm. In our age of big data, maybe the most important parts of love will always be the ones we can't measure.